Yeah, morning, Sarah Jane. Yeah, it can be quite confusing at times. Plenty of terms, including, well, let's start with this very obvious one, the Withdrawal Agreement. You'll have heard about that. That's the Prime Minister's agreed deal with the EU on the terms of the UK's departure. It covers how much money the UK should pay the EU as a settlement, transition period, citizens' rights, and, of course, the sticking point, the so-called backstop. Now, that's our next term. The backstop is how Theresa May plans to avoid a hard border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland when the UK leaves the EU. The proposal in the Withdrawal Agreement is for the EU and the whole of the UK to enter a temporary single customs territory until a permanent solution can be found, but Northern Ireland would also have to follow some other EU rules. So that's why some people have a problem with it. So in the event of that being the sticking point, no deal means that the UK will leave the EU with no agreements in place for what the relationship would look like in the future. The UK would become what's known as a third country to the EU, and commerce would be governed by World Trade Organization rules, WTO. You'll have heard about that. Now, each member of the WTO has a list of taxes on imports and limits on the number of goods that they apply to other countries. As part of the EU, the UK trades with countries like the US, Brazil, China, Australia on WTO terms. However, most big economies also have a series of bilateral agreements with the EU, as well as those WTO rules. So that's why people are looking for other solutions, including a Norway-style deal. Now, this would mean the UK becoming a member of the European Economic Area, the EEA, and EFTA, the European Free Trade Association, of which Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein and Switzerland are members. It would mean full access to the single market and very limited barriers to trade with the EU, but Norway contributes to the EU budget and therefore has to abide by many of the EU's rules. So that's why others prefer a Canada-style deal. Now, Canada's free trade deal with the EU is called the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement and means that most imported goods are not taxed. There are, however, some additional customs checks. Canada doesn't pay into the EU's budget and there is no free movement of people. Still, some people in favour of leaving the EU would like the benefits of a Canada deal, plus greater access to the EU and its financial institutions, and fewer restrictions on things like food production to avoid the need for border checks. Clear?